This is side 2, and we now return to local news with Joan, who will start with sports news.
And the sports I'm starting with is hockey. Southgate endured the misery of being relegated from the Premier Division of the English Hockey League following a dramatic weekend of play-off action. Having lost their opening match to Sheffield Hallam the previous weekend, Southgate boosted their hopes of staying up by beating Wimbledon 5-3 on Saturday, with Francois Pretorius 2, Dan Shingles, Andrew Westbrook and David Wilson scoring the goals. This left them needing to overcome Cardiff on Sunday to maintain their place in the top flight, and John Stellini's early goal put them on track to do just that until they conceded twice in the last 10 minutes to slump to a 2-1 defeat.
And now for a cricket item. Enfield enjoyed a resounding 9-wicket win at home to Gidea Park and Romford in the preliminary round of the National Club Championship on Sunday as they got their season underway in fine style. Some superb bowling from Patrick Blair, 5-21, and Lee Robertson, 3-12. 3-12, sorry. Saw the visitors dismissed for just 114 after being put into bat. And new skipper Jack Plum led from the front during Enfield's reply, ending up unbeaten on 51 as they cruised to 115 for 1, with 7 overs to spare. Tom Marsh, 22, helped him to add 68 for the first wicket, while Asad Shah finished on 29 not out. Enfield will entertain Wanstead and Snaresbrook in the next round on April 28th.
And now for some football news. Enfield 1893 were once again made to pay the price for failing to take their chances as they had to settle for a 1-1 draw from Saturday's Essex Senior League match at London APSA. As has been the case in so many matches this season, the E's dominated for long spells and created the vast majority of the clear-cut opportunities. But they only had Aaron Scott's 70th minute goal to show for their efforts, as the points were shared. It was like so many other games, in that we created good chances and didn't take them, said player-coach Mervyn Abraham. It's just very frustrating.
And I have some rugby union news. Enfield Ignatians maintained their excellent home record on Saturday by holding newly crowned London Division 3 North East champions North Walsham to a 6-6 draw at Donkey Lane. Ignatians have only lost once at home all season, and 2 penalties from Adam Smith ensured that they shared the spoils in a match played in dreadful conditions. Coach Emil Hertz said it was a fair result, and even the North Walsham coach complimented us afterwards and said that we got what we deserved. We've never lost against the same opposition in the league twice, and I was happy with our defence and determination. Enfield Ignatians host Saffron Walden in their last game of the season on Saturday.
Now I've come to a What's On, which is an unusual one because it is one full of business information that you'll need to know about. It starts with the headline NHS, which of course we all know by now what it means, but the next one is Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group. And it starts with its information. Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group would like to invite you to its governing body meeting to be held in public on 24th of April 2013 at 3 to 4:30 p.m. in the committee room, Holbrook House, Cockfosters Road, Barnet, EN4 ODR. Copies of the agenda and meeting papers will be available from the 18th of April 2013 at reception in Holbrook House and all the rest until I stop is in the lowercase, www. And then a longer word from Enfield, all meaning one word, and I'll have to half spell it to you, Enfield CCG in lowercase dot NHS dot UK. Questions about agenda items must be submitted by 12 noon on 22nd of April to, and here we go again, lowercase Ian dot, and the next is a running piece of information with bits of words put together. So having done Ian with dot, we now have Pocock at nclondon dot nhs dot UK and will be taken at the meeting. Further information is available from 0208 238 3866. That's a telephone number. Or email, and here we go back to one that we had earlier, Ian dot Pocock at nclondon dot nhs dot UK.
And now another NHS item. Campaigners against changes to the NHS will lead a meeting next week. Members of Enfield Alliance Against the Cuts will host the public debate in Enfield Civic Centre in Silver Street on Saturday, April 20th at 10:30 a.m. The group will discuss whether changes will impact patients differently in the East and the West, if the NHS will continue to be free at the point of use, and what people's rights are under the new system. Speakers will include the President of Enfield's Over 50s Forum, Monty Meth, Alliance Chairman Chris Kaufman, and Unite Health Campaign Coordinator Phil Rose.
And now for some more traditional What's On, and this is from the Chicken Shed. The Saturday Shed performance workshops for 5 to 12-year-old from the 27th of April. Next item is the Community Chorus, which is 8 weeks of vocal sessions from the 1st of May, and they're £60. And then the third item is All I've Known, from the 1st of May to the 18th of May, and that's a new studio theatre production. It's £10 a ticket, or £8 concession, and it's described as a revealing and uplifting picture of family life. If you'd like some more details on any of these, then call the box office at the Chicken Shed on 0208 292 9222.
And I have some more Chicken Shed. The first one is Tales Big Day Out. That's TALES. On the 20th and 21st of April, a family mini festival at 2:30 p.m. Shows, workshops, activities, and tickets are £8. And the next one is Adult Theatre Performance, workshops, 8 weeks performance, workshops from the 25th of April, and ticket £60. And the third one is Tales from the Shed, new season of shows for children from 0 to 7 years, Friday and Saturday mornings from the 26th of April, and the tickets are £6. And the box office is 0208 292 9222 or www.chickenshed, all one word, .org.uk.
Now we come to a letter which had been written by Councillor Michael Lavender, leader of the Conservative group of Enfield Borough Council. With the passing of Baroness Margaret Thatcher, Britain has lost one of its greatest prime ministers. We Conservatives have lost a very dear member of our political family, whose years of leadership still continue to shape our party's core beliefs and policies. Our thoughts go out to her family, especially her children Carol and Mark, on their sad loss. Lady Thatcher was unique. She finally turned the tide of the relentless slide of the country into socialism and decline. The principal reason why Lady Thatcher is an anathema to socialists is that she proved the falsity of the inevitability of socialism. The present fault line in political debate has now moved irrevocably to where it properly belongs. Those who take for granted the freedoms and quality of life that we enjoy today ought to speak to those who lived through the dark and cold days of the 1960s and 1970s, when we enjoyed waiting at supermarkets to buy rationed sugar, days and nights without heating, the confiscation of money at the border above £50, inflation at 26%, tax rates at 98%, and threats of violence to those who wanted to work. Many people now take for granted certain freedoms that some of us, under her leadership of the party, spent many years fighting for. Her funeral will be the day for celebrating the life of a lady who saved not only a corner of North London, but the country, the Western world, and ultimately the globe.
And now a letter from Councillor Edward Smith, Southgate Ward. New council figures show that 50% of the 503 private tenants in Enfield, whose benefits face being reduced by more than £100 now the universal cap has been introduced, say they are actively looking for work. Excuse me. I welcome the courage shown by the government in tackling the burgeoning cost of welfare that traps people able to work into poverty, something the last Labour government said it would do but never did. The introduction of the £500 a week benefit cap in Enfield poses some challenges for the local authority, but despite their political posturing, progress is being made in identifying the households most affected to provide advice and support. We will continue to support those efforts. It is early days yet, but the signs are encouraging, with 15% of those job seekers already having been successful. I think there is a brighter future for many as they take their first steps out of the poverty trap. The reduction in housing benefit for council tenants of working age who have a one spare bedroom or more is another important reform that will reduce waiting lists in the longer term and reduce the benefit bill. I fully support the exemptions for foster parents, those with sons and daughters in the armed forces and the disabled who need the extra accommodation.
And now a letter from Councillor George Sava, Hazelberry Ward. The housing benefits changes and the new housing allocations scheme, along with the bedroom tax, will hit many poor families at a time when we, as an authority, are trying to address the child poverty situation. Things could not get any worse, but unfortunately they have. This new policy by the government is nothing short of the poll tax scandal in the early 1990s, and we know what happened then, when councils had difficulty collecting it. Under the Thatcherite right-to-buy scheme, we never saw any replacement of housing stock, and as a result we are faced with housing shortages and homelessness. All of these Tory policies have proved to be a recipe for disaster, and once again will prove to be so. Enfield's Labour Council, recognising the current economic crisis affecting many families, decided to freeze council tax for a third year in a row. Shame the government chose to ignore calls from the ordinary people in our borough to provide help, but instead gave them a kick in the teeth. The people of this country will return the compliment come election time.
I'm afraid I don't have a letter to read to you, so I will go straight over to the normal news. Campaigners fighting a 231-home development on the borough's border with Barnet are preparing to take legal action after Enfield Council approved the plans last month. Housing Association L&Q's application to develop the former Middlesex University campus in Cat Hill, Cockfosters, was passed by 8 votes to 5 at a 3-hour planning meeting last month at Ashmore Academy in Cecil Road, Southgate. The decision came despite a hard-fought campaign by residents and politicians, including Chipping Barnet MP Theresa Villiers, who argued that the development was too dense and would have a negative impact on wildlife. However, last Wednesday, the leader of the campaign to save Cat Hill, Kim Coleman, said that the group's solicitors had put the council on notice that it would be launching a judicial review against the planning committee's decision. Ms. Coleman said nobody in the group is prepared to give up because we feel that the planning committee meeting treated us extremely unfairly.
The title of the leader of Enfield Council, Doug Taylor's column, is that every adult should have the best chance of a healthy life, regardless of where they live. So I will read what his statement is in its entirety. The measles outbreak in Swansea, which has appeared regularly on our TV screens, is a stark reminder that public health is a serious matter. I am therefore pleased to welcome a public health team to Enfield Council, which will be dedicated to the wider public health concerns and campaigns in the borough. Enfield faces some huge health challenges. Upper Edmonton has the worst female life expectancy in north-central London and the 6th worst in London. Enfield also has one of the worst childhood obesity rates in the country. This situation is compounded by a level of government funding which appears to have no relation to the needs of local people or the gap in life expectancy between the east of the borough and the west. I believe that every child deserves to get the best start in life and that every adult should have the best chance of leading a long, healthy life, irrespective of where in the borough they happen to live. However, despite these challenges, our new public health team is steadily making inroads into the health issues that affect Enfield's residents. For example, we have learned that Year 6 childhood obesity rates in the borough are the most improved in London. The advantages of including public health within the council is that we can share information about the population's health and coordinated work across council services to help inform residents and address the main issues. I am determined that health will be considered in every council policy going forward. It is everybody's business and everybody's concern. Since health is a measure of some of the inequalities across the borough, I am delighted that deficiencies in health services in the Ordnance Road area are being addressed. This is an area where up to half of residents don't have a GP. Demolition work has just started on the old library site, and by next year, a joint service centre providing space for doctors' surgeries, dentists, a community hall, and a new library building will provide the modern services that our residents deserve and expect. And this will make a real difference.
Sweet Tooth Business Secretary Vince Cable swapped politics for the production line during a visit to a chocolate factory. Donning a hairnet and factory whites, the Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills lent a hand at the Grown-Up Chocolate Company last Wednesday, while announcing a £300 million government lending boost for small and medium-sized businesses. The politician, whose parents had been chocolate makers in York, spent an hour and a half with staff in Riverwalk Business Park in Brimsdown and tried hand-decorating chocolate under the watchful gaze of experts. Managing Director James Eccleston spent 20 minutes talking to the Twickenham MP about issues affecting businesses in Enfield, including the problems of fly tipping. Mr. Eccleston, who now employs 23 members of staff but started his business making chocolates on his kitchen table, said he is deciding what to do with Mr. Cable's hand-decorated chocolates and said they could be given out as a prize to a lucky customer. He said Mr. Cable had a sweet tooth and his chocolate decorating skills improved considerably during his stint on the production line. The company, launched in September 2011, produces 3 types of chocolates: ganaches, pralines and truffles.
An undertaker has been forced to apologise after making a series of blunders over the funeral of her grandmother from Enfield. Mistakes made by staff at the Cooperative Funeral Care in Lancaster Road, Enfield, include the ordering of a grave marker with Aunt Marie Lawless' name on it instead of the name of her mother, Mary Teresa Lawless. And now, Anne-Marie, from Enfield, is considering suing the funeral parlour, which charged the family £5,681 for its services. Her mother had died after a short illness, aged 82, at Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane, High Barnet, on November 17th last year. Mrs. Lawless's relatives said the mistake started almost as soon as they had signed a contract with the Cooperative Funeral Care. Anne-Marie said the undertaker failed to communicate with her in the run-up to the funeral, and the family was unable to see her mother's body for 6 days. When the coffin was finally brought to Anne-Marie's sister's home in Cheshunt, final arrangements for the funeral route from Cheshunt to Enfield Cemetery and Crematorium in Great Cambridge Road had to be made just an hour before it was due to start. Then the family was left deeply shocked when the grave marker, which arrived 2 weeks late, had Anne-Marie's instead of Mary Teresa's name on it. "I really don't want any other family to go through what we have been through," said Anne-Marie. "Mum died very unexpectedly, and we had no experience of dealing with this. It was a very difficult time for us. We decided to let the cooperative take care of things for us, but they did not provide any support, advice, and their communication was terrible. It was absolutely horrendous." A spokesman for the Cooperative Funeral Care said, "We are extremely sorry about the mistake with the grave marker, which occurred as a result of human error. This was an isolated incident, and we have taken steps to ensure it doesn't happen again. We've apologised to Mrs. Lawless's family and have offered the family a reduction in our costs as a gesture of goodwill." A spokesman from Foyatiadis Solicitors, representing the family, said, "We consider the cooperative to be in breach of their obligation to provide an efficient service. Their offer of £250 as a gesture of goodwill as against a bill of more than £5,000 is derisory and insulting."
A father from Wood Green will run the London Marathon to raise money for a hospital in memory of his baby son. Darren Smith, 33, will take on the 26.2-mile challenge this Sunday in memory of his son Isaac, who passed away when he was just 5 days old on August the 1st last year. Mr. Smith of Arcadian Gardens will bid to raise money for Evelina Children's Hospital, based at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital, which he said works so hard to save his son. He said it was such a traumatic time for both of us, but the thought of raising all this money for the hospital has really driven me. It has given something for us to focus our grief on. It is a way to turn a tragedy into a positive and raise as much as we can to help other families in a similar situation. What really surprised me about the hospital was that people are not aware of the work they do there and the pioneering treatments they have. I cannot speak highly enough about the hospital and the support the staff gave us. They were fantastic. Isaac was conceived using IVF treatment, and 37 weeks into the pregnancy, Darren and his wife went for their final scan at North Middlesex Hospital in Edmonton. All seemed fine at the checkup, but leaving the building, his wife started bleeding, and it was found Isaac's heartbeat was beginning to drop. He was born following an emergency caesarean section, but doctors discovered his heart had stopped beating. After 21 minutes, a faint heartbeat was detected, and Isaac was moved to intensive care. He was then transferred to St Thomas's Hospital in central London, where he was treated with pioneering brain cooling treatment to reduce his body temperature and reduce the risk of further damage. After the treatment and more extensive tests were carried out, it was found Isaac had suffered catastrophic brain damage, affecting all parts of his brain, and he was not going to be able to survive. On August the 1st, he passed away in his mother's arms, with both parents holding his hands. So far, Mr. Smith has raised more than £13,700 for the charity, but is hoping to get over the £15,000 mark by the start of the marathon. To sponsor him, visit uk.virginmoney, which is all one word, giving.com/Darren's Challenges. We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of
Joan?
Beverly,
Rod,
and myself, Lilian, with Colin and Cassandra on controls, and we have Ian with us tonight, who is learning the trade. So please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.